Topping pretty much everybody's list of creepy tech companies is Palantir. I mean, they give out an Orwellian vibe all the way. But I also know there's a lot of misinformation out there about them. So this week I decided I'm going to learn, I'm going to try to understand this company better. The short answer in this video, if you don't want to watch the whole thing, is they are deeply disturbing, but maybe not exactly for the reasons you might think. So here's the basics of their technology, because you have to understand first what it is they do. So they have two main products called Gotham and Foundry. Gotham is, they're very similar, and Gotham is the version they sell to like militaries, intelligence agencies. So that list has like CIA, FBI, American military, Israeli Defense Forces, UK Department of Defense. And then Foundry is the version that they've used for like Medicaid and COVID tracking, and I don't know, they sell it to like NHS in the UK, commercial organizations like AT&T and one of the Walgreen or Walmart, I can't remember. And so what exactly do these two products do? Well, I'm just going to give you a quote. I got it from Wired magazine. And the journalist there, she wrote, Palantir software sits on top of a customer's messy systems and allows them to integrate and analyze data without needing to fix the underlying architecture. So immediately you can see why it's so fantastic for these organizations, because they don't have to clean up their stuff. She calls Palantir like a technical band-aid. It basically just sits on top and pulls in data from all of their data sources. We'll even add new data sources if you want, like such as from social media. And you can use these very, user-friendly query functions, and you get your, analysis and insight. And now there's an AI plugin, of course. What I couldn't verify is this idea that Palantir collects or keeps a copy of all the data that its customers use. So that rumor is out there. I was unable to substantiate that. So very briefly, I want to talk about some of the problems with this technology before I get into the, to me, disturbing part. But this is not just applicable to Palantir, but it sets up the rest of it, okay? This is essentially, it's a tool. It's a tool that's used to generate insights and make decisions. And one of the things I'm getting really tired of is these companies, a lot of these tech companies, pretending that data is just data. It's just one thing. Because it's not. Data is often messy, incomplete, full of bias. And we're not talking about that enough. So yes, Palantir may pull in, all this data and generate all these insights, but if the underlying data is garbage, then the analysis and insights are going to be garbage as well. Now, maybe that's not as big of an issue if you're like AT&T and you're trying to figure out how to ship cell phones better, but it is absolutely an issue if you are working in a military and you are using its analysis to decide where to bomb, right? The underlying integrity of the data is really important. There's an amazing book about data called Invisible Women by this, I think her name is Carolyn Perez. And she talks about historically this ridiculous notion that we have that all data is somehow perfect. And so what we generate from it is automatically useful. If your data's crap, your results are going to be crap. And again, there are some situations, if you're using a product like Palantir, where that is deeply problematic. The other place that Palantir comes up a lot in media is in the United States, where it's being used by ICE and police departments for predictive activities, like predictive policing, and for, whatever it is that ICE is doing, trying to find illegal immigrants or legal immigrants or people it just doesn't like. And so the problem with that is it's not predictive in the sense that it's not a crystal ball, okay? It's not like facts are spewing out like, oh, I looked at all this data and this is exactly what's going to happen. Like, even if we ignore the data integrity issues, no amount of data from the past is going to predict everything about the future with 100% accuracy, right? Past data doesn't predict emergent events or black swan events. It doesn't predict all the nuances in a complex adaptive system and how things are going to play out. And the further you get from the point that you are, the less likely you're going to get accurate outcomes. So at the most, Palantir is surfacing probabilistic outcomes. Now, obviously, the ones with a higher probability are being surfaced, at higher, but it's still probabilistic. So that's another part that, and it will affect any tool that kind of is used to make decisions, the underlying data issues and then the user issues. Do you understand the tool? Do you understand probabilities? Anyway, but what that means is that obviously it's far from perfect because we are not living in a perfect world. And where I think Palantir definitely starts to really become exceptionally creepy is not actually in the tool itself, but in the ethos of the company that makes it. So I did part of this research was looking at the CEO, because who sets the tone? The CEO sets the tone. Alex Karp is the CEO of Palantir, and he has made a lot of statements, written a whole book about the idea that technology needs to be developed in the service of the state, not the individuals. Now, I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, but he kind of sees himself as, and the company, that he runs, as providing all this technical capability in order to support the power of the state. Now, they don't sell to China or Russia or Iran, so it's done in service of Western countries, Western ideals. We know that whole Western thing is breaking down. So I'm assuming his rhetoric is going to start shifting, if it hasn't already, really quickly to America. The technology is in support of American power. And I found quotes where he said that he imagines that when you have this technologically superior state, that wars cease to exist because it's such a deterrent to be so powerful. And I have to tell you, I'm really tired of these guys. I'm tired of them. I'm tired of these guys who don't live in the world that the rest of us do, who don't have to worry about feeding their kids or making their mortgage payments. They hide behind make-up words and obscure concepts, and they spout out this rhetoric that very quickly breaks down. Because to me, immediately what I think of is what happens when your technology is in the service of a state that is no longer pursuing so-called Western ideals. What if your technology is now in service of a state that is pursuing authoritarian ideals, totalitarian ideals? What if it wants to commit genocide? Right? There's no ethical boundaries around this stuff. It doesn't seem to be happening. And that's what I find really disturbing. It's not the idea, the more I learn about Palantir technology, it's not actually the technology itself that has problems that no other technologies do. As I've just explained, it has problems. A lot of technologies have the same problems. To me, where Palantir seems to be getting a lot of its creepiness is their CEO kind of comes across as this guy who thought 1984 was the way to go. Because there's no reflection on what happens when his technology is in service of a state that's committing war crimes, that's doing evil things, committing atrocities. I get tired of it. Anyways, this is not everything about Palantir, okay? I'm sure I will learn more, and I will update you as I learn things. This is just this week what I've learned. You have any questions? I absolutely always want to hear them. Comments, of course. Otherwise, I hope everybody has managed to have a great day. I am now going to be looking at pictures of rainbows, unicorns, and puppies to change how I feel. Anyways, talk to you later.